Well, hey, we are excited you're joining us today. We know that there are some things that you guys have to think about as business owners and in the different seasons of this crisis. We were worried at the beginning about, oh my gosh, what do we do? And business is going down. And then the PPP loans came into existence, and we talked a lot about those. We talked a lot about sick pay and the Family First Coronavirus Act about sick pay and eligible pay for employees that were out, for instance, taking care of their kids. But today we really want to focus on the what comes next. Maybe business is down and we have seen kind of a reduction. Our PPP loan may be coming to an end. And so some of those, or we didn't get one. And so that short stopgap is over. And so now we are poised with the possible reality of our revenues are down and we don't have as many need for employees. What do we do now? What are our options? So with us today, I've got Karen Moss, and Karen's on our team, and she is a over 30-year HR professional, and we are excited again to have Karen with us just to kind of talk through some of our options today. So Karen, I'm gonna just kind of pass it over to you, and can you kind of give us some options on, we've come to the end of the PPP loan, or we didn't get it to begin with, and now we really need to know, how do we thin our staff? How do we take down our payroll costs to match our revenues?
Sure. Thank you for asking me to join you today. And so there are a couple of options that we do have. One of them that you've probably heard a lot about are furloughs. And a furlough is really, it can be in the form of reducing someone's hours, but it's really an unpaid leave, and it can be for several weeks, several months for that matter. And it's really just allowing those people to take unpaid time off. They also can maintain their benefits. But the idea with a furlough is that it is temporary. And so the idea is that you are going to call them back at some point. So that's an option. Another option that is longer term is certainly a layoff. And with a layoff, the idea really isn't that you're going to call them back right away. You may or may not call them back. So it's really more of a separation from the company that's more permanent. The other options that a lot of companies are using these days are reducing pay. And if you decide to do that, you can do that with any of your employees, be it exempt or non-exempt, hourly, salaried. And with that, what we typically see is you would reduce salaries of people making more, maybe as much as 20 or 25%, whereas with your employees who are making less, it would be less than that, perhaps 10%. So that's an option. And then you can always look at reducing hours with your hourly employees. You cannot do that with your exempt employees, because then they lose their status under the Fair Labor Standards Act. The other thing to keep in mind is if you furlough, if you lay off, if you reduce hours, your employees are eligible for unemployment insurance. And in Georgia, with a lot of these things that are happening, they made a new ruling, and so it's up to the employer to actually file the unemployment claim rather than the employee.
Karen, so question for you. So there's all these options. How do I pick between which option I use for which employee? How do I decide? Is it because one's been with me a long time, or is it's because one is less expensive, or how do I make those decisions?
So what you'd want to do is, if you know that you've got to cut back in some way, shape, or form, I would think that you would want to keep the people that are most essential, most critical to the work that you're doing. But what you need to keep in mind is when you make those decisions, you have to think about who's being impacted, what group of employees are being impacted. So you want your decision preferably to be more objective rather than subjective. That means keeping it objective would be looking at someone's tenure or seniority, for example. Less objective would be looking at someone's performance, right? So therein lies the problem with a lot of decisions if, in fact, performance reviews don't really adequately reflect someone's true performance. So you've got to think about the criteria and try to make it as objective as possible. But of course, keeping those people that are most critical to your business, that's really important.
Awesome. But those are always tough decisions because
They
we don't
are.
let anybody go.
They are. It's always very gut wrenching. It's not easy to do. It's always very difficult. And if in fact you decide, whether it's whatever it is you're doing, be it a furlough, reduction of hours, or a layoff, it's always really, really gut wrenching to do those kinds of things. And now, employers are having to do that not face to face, but actually through a Zoom call. So again, you have to think about using your compassion and being respectful and handling it, in a respectful manner, like I mentioned. That's really important. So if you have to do this, as tough as it is, you want to make sure that you are taking care of your employees. And so make sure you have everything in order. There's steps that need to be taken, especially if it's a separation situation where, let's say, you're laying them off permanently. So unemployment, but then also if you're doing that, consider offering them some outplacement service. I mean, that's something that a lot of players provide. We do that. That's a new service that we're offering because I think it's important in helping them make the transition. It's always a tough decision, but the more you can do to help people, the better they walk away feeling about your company and how you've responded to their situation. And then, of course, another option is if you've got someone working full-time or less hours, consider part-time work. Working with part-time professionals, something that we do as well, which you can certainly address.
Yeah. So, we're excited to offer this outplacement services. We have found that individuals are coming to us and asking for us to help them with their resumes and LinkedIn and doing job interview prep work for them, and even doing some in-depth career counseling with them. And so I think this is giving an opportunity for people to take a step back and say, what do I really want for my next position? And so we're helping individuals with that. And with that, we're also offering that to companies so that we can partner with our clients and our companies to say, let us help you make that transition easier for them, which just amounts for you paying for those services for them. Might be an easier transition out for them if that's a possibility for you. And then we just, as always, we hire part-time staff. So if you have had to lay off like a full-time bookkeeper and feel like you need somebody else, we can help you find that person. And we can always answer any questions. We have this policy where we're answering free HR questions at any time over the telephone to help you guys. So please take advantage of that and give us a call, and Karen or I will take your call. And then, Karen, what's that? I wanted to make sure that we touched on severance before we leave here. Is that the PPP loan, if you happen to have gotten it, does cover severance pay. Is that right, Karen?
It does. So severance pay is actually considered under the CARES Act and PPP. Severance pay is actually one of the payroll costs that is covered. So if in fact you have a situation where you want to lay someone off, for example, and you decide you want to do a severance agreement for that particular person, that expense would definitely be covered under the PPP.
Now, and you'd have to be careful though, and work with your attorney as always on all of this, because when you do let somebody go under your PPP loan, you have to make sure that you have your head count numbers up for forgiveness, as well as you haven't changed the pay of that person. So again, work with your attorney, your labor attorney on this, because they're the only ones that can give you true guidance on that. But we do know that the regulations do state that you can use that for severance. So if you are looking at a situation where you need to help some people and need to let them go, that might be a good option for you to leave on good terms with that person, be able to part ways with that person on good terms, as well as the outplacement services. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we just hope that you don't have to do this. We hope that you didn't have to even listen to this because your business is going really well and this is not an option for you. But we understand that for some that it may be. So if you have any questions, feel free to use that opportunity to call us or to let us know any way that we can help. Thanks again, Karen, for your time.
Sure, you're welcome.
You guys all have a good day.